What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we start off with tonight's episode. Azrael starring Samara Weaving hits Blu-ray in January. So you may have heard me say this time and time again, and I will continue to say it time and time again. When it comes to films like this, I feel like they don't seem to hit the mainstream media. They don't seem to hit the mainstream theatrical releases. This one, again, I feel flew underneath the radar, and normally the people who hear about films like specifically this one or films like this are those of us in the horror community or horror movie fans will tend to find out about these films, know about these films, and then they will spread word of mouth. Now, again, this was one that came out actually earlier this year in select areas. It didn't have a big theatrical run, if really much of one at all. Nonetheless, it is coming out on Blu-ray here. So Battle to Survive will begin on January 21st when Azrael hits Blu-ray via IFC Films. Genre favorite, Samara Weaving stars in the dialogue-free post-apocalyptic survival horror film with Vic Cameron Soni and Nathan Stewart Jarrett. E.L. Katz directs from a script written by Simon Barrett. This goes over some of the special features include audio commentary, set design gallery, concept art gallery, church fight featurette, pre-visual versus final cut. I think those are always, side note, I always find those very interesting. I know recently stepping outside the horror genre, more into the science fiction. One of the more recent Planet of the Apes films, it showed out on Twitter, and actually there's a full release now of the entire film without any special effects added to it. So you can actually watch the whole film, pre any of the visuals done for it, and then if you want, then go watch the actual final cut of the film with all the special effects and visuals done. I think it's a real eye-opener to see what goes into special effects and what goes into create these worlds. So adding stuff like this as far as special features, I'm always a fan for, because again, it just makes you appreciate the work and effort that goes into it. Not just the work to add those effects in, but also for the actors and actresses who might be talking to nothing or might be talking to just this puppet that is there in placement of a character that will be added via special effects. So again, I'm always a fan of these types of things that are added. Makeup special effects, behind the set clips, church after dark. Okay, so in the film, in a world in which no one speaks, a devout female hunts down a young woman who has escaped her imprisonment. Recaptured by its ruthless leader, Azrael is due to be sacrificed to pacify an ancient evil deep within the surrounding wilderness. So, and that's where it cuts off. We look at the cover of the Blu-ray. I'm hoping, it's only mentions a Blu-ray. I do hope we get a 4K release on this. I know sometimes horror films don't necessarily make it to 4K. Either way, though, I'm happy we're getting a Blu-ray cut. I'm happy we're getting a physical media release on this one. I'll be adding it. I think one of the nuances to this is, again, as you've heard me say, and as you will see in the article, we go back up here, in a world with where no one speaks. And it even mentions it. The genre favorite, Samara Weaving, starts in the dialogue free. So that's gonna make this, the whole film is you're really devoted to the actors and actresses really selling the experience, the emotions, everything that the characters are going through to keep the audience involved. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right over to the trailer. Even though this film has been out, we got the Blu-ray coming out in January, so we're going to jump to the trailer and take a look at it and see what we're going to be setting ourselves up for. So what do we think? Again, I'm thinking this looks good, but again, it being just a trailer and knowing this is dialogue free, from what we saw in the trailer, they're able to sell it. They're able to sell, again, having to show the emotions of what's transpiring, having to convey what's transpiring through those emotions and the experiences. But for a full-fledged film, I think it's going to take quite a bit to keep the crowd, or keep the audience, one, interested, but keep them involved in the story to make them want to know what's going to happen next with the character, right? So I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, if it's coming out on Blu-ray, odds are it will also come out on VOD, one way, shape, or form. So this might be one we rent first, just to see if it's something worth owning versus paying full retail price for a Blu-ray, to be honest. The only thing I'm a little hesitant on is the dialogue free, but that isn't going to sway me from not seeing it at all. It will be something I watch because, again, it has that very eerie, psychotic horror film feel to it, so we'll be checking it out. Nonetheless, though, I think it's going to be a big lift with no dialogue to be a good film. So we'll be checking it out, and we'll let you all know when we do. All right, The Institute, makers of the Stephen King series, explain the decision to cast older and the connection to The Shining. Stephen King's novel The Institute reached store shelves on September 10th, 2019, and that same day it was announced that David Kelly and Jake Bender, the duo behind the King series adaptation Mr. Mercedes, were working on a limited series adaptation of The Institute. 5 years have gone since then, and Kelly has dropped off the project along the way, but The Institute is moving forward at MGM Plus, and Variety reports that a trailer for the show was screened at Continent London on Thursday. Michael Wright, the head of MGM Plus, director/executive producer Jack Bender, and creator executive producer Benjamin Cavell were also in attendance to talk about the show, including the decision to age up the characters for the adaptation and the story's connection to The Shining. All right, so we got a quote here. Set to run for 8 episodes, The Institute will tell the following story. So actually, this is the synopsis before we get to the quotes. When young genius Luke Ellis is kidnapped, he awakens at The Institute, a facility full of children who all got there the same way he did and who all possessed of unusual abilities. In a nearby town, haunted former police officer Tim Jameson has come looking to start a new life, but the peace and quiet won't last as his story and Luke's are destined to collide. King is an executive producer on the series, which is set to premiere in 2025. Okay, I don't know. I'm sure you all think I'm sounding like a broken record at this point. I don't know how many more times I can say this, but I guess it's just one thing I'm going to have to constantly say. Every time we see a TV series come up, 8 episodes, it seems to now be the standard, and I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of these streaming services, production companies, studios, whoever is making the decision to keep things at 8 episodes is just ridiculous to me. We've seen time and time again where 8 episodes hasn't been enough. Now we have a show. I know HBO Max or Max HBO doing Dune. Their new Dune series out that's currently running right now. They only did 6 episodes for that. House of the Dragon did 8 episodes. Everyone's only now doing 8 episodes, and by the time you get to the 7th into the 8th, it feels like there's so much to be resolved, and then it always feels like things then get rushed through, which then leaves the audience completely deflated and disappointed. I'll say it again, I hope they can somehow manage to do this in 8 episodes. Hopefully they're not just 45, 48-minute episodes. If they can get them to an hour and 15 minutes each, I think then that takes care of the fact of a 9th and 10th episode. You leave yourself enough runway to tell the story correctly and right. If not, do we have ourselves now another series to add to the list of thinking 8 episodes was going to be enough and leave the fans, I don't want to say wanting more, when in fact they do want more, but they wanted what they should have gotten in that first set of 8 episodes or that first season. All right, so let's go. So that's my little soapbox moment going on. Bender explained that they aged up the young characters because, quote, we were very aware of not wanting this to be as awful as it can be. What these kids go through, we didn't want it to be a sadistic experience. There's a fine line, and God knows as storytellers we didn't want to go there. Cavell mentioned that the Institute connected to The Shining because the youngsters in the story all have a version of The Shine. Quote, kids with the Shine are being kidnapped by some shadowy organization that we don't fully understand, but the kids ultimately are able to find a way to rescue themselves. There isn't some external force that comes and saves them. The kids have to band together and through their own ingenuity and ability find their way out. As for the trailer that was shown, Variety provided the following description. I'm not going to read through the description. I'll provide the link of this article in the description of this video. If you want to read the description of the trailer, feel free to. Otherwise, I like to wait for the trailers to come out or read the synopsis when we have a trailer versus kind of spoiling it. But here is a first look from the Institute, the show. So we see here we have what appears to be one of the children that they're referring to, but that they've aged up to look like obviously a teenager, young adult in one of these institutes. Looks very time period, and I say time period by just looking at the technology that's sitting around here in the background. Some of these in the background, these computer monitors are not current time. They look very aged, 80s, 90s possibly. Even like the machinery he's hooked up to for the heart monitoring, pulse, everything is very aged as well. So, we'll keep an eye on this one. Again, my soapbox is the 8-episode thing. I just don't know why that seems to be the new thing to be doing with your TV series. So, all right. So our last topic for tonight's episode is none of 28 Years Later's confirmed stars are the movie's lead. Actor seemingly reveals. Side note, that's disappointing. We've talked about this upcoming sequel to the original 2 films, but the first film in the new trilogy that's being kicked off from this film, so it's kind of serving 2 purposes here. The third installment for the original, but the first installment for the new trilogy, if that makes sense. But we talked about this film. We've talked about Cillian Murphy coming back, and we were wondering at the time, which is pictured here from 28 Days Later, we had talked about our concern if Cillian Murphy's coming back, is he going to be just a cameo character, a side character, not really used? So going into some of the details here, none of 28 Years Later's confirmed stars are the movie's lead, which we knew that, but it's the amount of screen time that we know these actors will have. Actor Aaron Taylor Johnson seemingly reveals the long-awaited sequel to 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. The upcoming post-apocalyptic horror film is once again written by Alex Garland and directed by Danny Boyle. Following a group of survivors in a world ravaged by the rage virus and hordes of infected, the confirmed 28 Years Later cast includes Cillian Murphy reprising his role from 28 Days Later alongside newcomers Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, Ralph Fiennes, Jack O'Connell, Aaron Kellerman, and Edvin Writing. We're going to jump right to the quote that Aaron had given. I've just done a movie 28 years later with Danny Boyle, and the lead is this young lad, Alfie's 13. I really took him under my wing and as did Danny. And we took care of him in a way that was like, I remember being that 13-year-old boy, but I didn't have someone who took me under their wing. So just go on to some of the other things the actors have been in. Aaron Taylor Johnson seemingly revealing that 28 Weeks Later lead is a 13-year-old actor named Alfie, means that the movie appears to be taking the path of a typical legacy sequel. Releasing nearly 20 years after the last film, 28 Years Later will take place significantly later in the timeline and incorporate a character from the original, who was Cillian Murphy's Jim. However, the lead will be a completely new character played by a 13-year-old actor named Alfie, aiming to honor the legacy of the original film while presenting a fresh perspective. We go on to talk about a little bit more about what I mentioned earlier. 28 Years Later is designed as the first film in the new trilogy of sequels. 28 Years Later Part 2, The Bone Temple, was shot back-to-back, directed by Nia DaCosta, with Boyle and Garland returning as writers. Though the rest of the cast is unconfirmed, it's possible that the 13-year-old actor named Alfie could return as the lead for the entire sequel trilogy. Garland says a major influence on 28 Years Later was Kes, a 1969 coming-of-age film about a 15-year-old boy who adapts a fledgling kestrel and trains in the art of falconry. And we've recently just talked about the lead, and that's where the article leads off. So I'll put, again, as I always do, I'll put a link for this article in the description of this video below. But what do you think? Again, I was looking forward to having Cillian Murphy back. I was hoping it would be kind of a passing of the torch where he'd be in it quite a bit. I'm now more and more skeptical that with this confirmation that obviously none of these confirmed actors will be the leads, there will be, in a sense, no passing of that torch. So That's going to be unfortunate, but we'll have to wait and find out what his role, what Aaron's role is going to be in this film. And I just don't want to be disappointed. 28 weeks later for me was disappointing, so I'm hoping this one doesn't disappoint, especially with Danny coming back. So we will find out. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Just want to say a quick thanks for spending a few moments of your day with me here at Reign of Horror. It is always greatly appreciated. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Drop a comment in the comments section. Let us know what you think about tonight's topics, and if there's a topic you would like to see us cover in a future episode. Otherwise, we will see you at the next one. Peace.